video.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions on Isabella's session today. We are just waiting for Isa's guest to arrive in a moment, but we thought we'd give you a quick update that Branded by Women is launched today. Athena and Michelle will be on a bit later. We do also have the promo video, which we'll show a bit later. I think, Isa, you're over in Miami at the moment, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Thank you, and good morning, Seller Sessions. Good morning to everyone watching, and good afternoon and good evening if you're watching from different places in this world. Good to see you, Danny.
You too. All right, so let's do a quick chat about Branded by Women, just while we're waiting for your guest to arrive. So you can go to brandedbywomen.com. You can sign up for your free pass as of now. Let's just go through some of the lineup that we have on the event over the 3 days. So just going to go through. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let me share my screen. And what we can do is we can just go through the website so people can have a look. Share screen, and then what we'll do is we'll play the video later. Let me just go Chrome tab. Okay, here we go. All right, Isa, can you see that?
Yes, I can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so new website here. I'm going to come off page here and start scrolling. So just going to go down to, you'll see some familiar faces here. About 50% of the speakers are new and 50% are returning speakers from the last Branded by Women. You just click here and you're able to grab your free ticket. If we go down to the schedule, so we're going to do the same format as we did last year, which is day 1 is mindset, day 2 is marketing, and day 3 is mastery. So again, same host. So Isa will take day 2, which is the marketing. Athena's going to take day 1, which is mindset, and again, Michelle will do mastery. So this year is a new face that some of you guys know in the community is Tiffany Hepburn. She'll be covering account health issues and chronic illnesses. Karen Thomas returns. Stephanie, you've met on the show a few times when we've done some Mindset Mondays, etc. But she is coming back here to do her first presentation. We all know Destiny Wishon, very well known, who does PPC, runs Better AMS as well, alongside Taylor Benterud as well. Francesca Armstrong, she's going to be back doing a different presentation. Christina Passmore, this is her first presentation. She's had a pretty meteoric rise over the last few months. Kim Ford is for the first time. Egla, she was one of the breakout successes, the last Branded by Women. And then on day 2 for the marketing, of course, close friend of yours is Christina is back. Again, Megla is back. Regina is coming back as well. This is Janella's first time. Melissa, we've got to put the image in there, will be returning to do a presentation. Second time for Anne Ferris. Of course, Cassandra Craven is back. Gabrielle, again, not many of you guys will know Gabrielle. She is based in the UK. I speak at a lot of the UK events that they put on at the NEC. Valerie, again, this is someone that may not be very much aware of, but she'll be doing a presentation at Branded by Women. Of course, co-host here on Seller Sessions, Sharon Evan. Cara Say is back. Yal Kabili, who a lot of people love, who comes onto the show, speaks a lot about suspensions, legal and stuff like that. McLean Warren, this is her first presentation. Of course, Amy Weiss is back. Kellyanne, I did an in-depth with a few weeks ago. So she is doing her first time presentation. This is first time for Cindy. First appearance for Kirsty Verity as well. Vanessa Burden for the first time. Kata Phipps is back. Erin Graybill for the first time. We did do an in-depth with her. Of course, Michelle Venton here. Courtney, that you've had on your show on a Monday a few times, will be presenting for the first time. Lucy Sharman, and there are still more to be added. Now, it sounds like something clicked in there. I think your guest has arrived. So I'm just going to do a quick handover to you, and we'll do the video at the top of the hour. So thank you, guys.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you. I'm very excited.
Okay, let's bring Jeff to the fore. I'm going to go. I'll have a good show. Take care.
Thank you. Good morning,
Well,
Dr. Jeff Spencer.
Good morning to you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you are an extremely busy person, but I love to see you here.
Well, it's my pleasure. I can't wait to see what comes out of this. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so glad. I'm actually in Miami right now. Where are you coming live from? Just so
Yeah,
our audience knows.
I'm beaming in from LA.
Awesome. Yeah, you're very close to me when I'm in San Diego, but right now we're a little further apart. So
3,000 miles.
would you tell a little bit about yourself to those who don't know you? And yeah, I think we could start there.
Well, sure. Well, thank you. Just a little historical data here. When I was 7, I thought it'd be cool to be an Olympian. Had a great coaching, a couple angels in my life. And at the age of 21, I did become an Olympic cyclist. So I know what it's like to play at the highest level of human performance. I know how to win. I know how to win big because of that experience. And I also have a master's degree in sports science. So I know how to craft a body that can push when it needs to push and stay in the game over the long term to create a massive legacy. And I also have a primary healthcare provider licensure. So I know how to get and keep people well and performing at their best. And as a result of that background, I've been able to work with some of the most prolific achievers of our time, advising them on how to get to the top of their game and actually stay there. So that's what I do. I'm an advisor to people, and I show them the path forward. I show them how to get to the biggest level of play and how to keep them there.
That's fantastic. How did you know that this was your passion, or just over time you just it just came to you? Like
Yeah.
this passion of helping people and really helping them achieve that potential that they don't think they can possibly have.
Well, I feel first and foremost that I've always had this gift and the ability to see where someone is and know how to craft their unique path forward to get them to where they want to go. And I call that the champion space. And a champion is someone that manifests whatever their gift potential really is. And we all have immense gifts that we need to cultivate and grow, and have a method that allows us to create a life of distinction based upon that. I've always had that gift. And becoming an Olympian, I know what it's like to play at the top. And I feel like everybody in life should have a chance to be able to experience what that's like. But I also know that you just can't make it up. There has to be a structure that you hold your aspirations in, that history has proven that could take us from where we are to where we want to go. And so that's why I'm still in the game. I love to see people succeed. I love to see people smiling because they're living a life based upon their ability to manifest their dreams and their potential.
So you would say that, it's not all about just like believing that you can do it, but you actually have to create a structure around that goal. Is that what you're essentially saying? You can't just like wish it into existence. You actually have to create a path and follow some guidelines.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's an intellectual exercise to have dreams, but if you can't manifest them because you don't have the ability to manifest them, then they kind of stay stuck in our head. And they really don't become something that we can share with others. And it's certainly, we can't create a legacy based upon our hopes and our dreams. They have to be manifest to do that. And it requires a structure. There's a lot of people that got a lot of will and talent that don't go anywhere. My father was one. He was an artistic genius that died homeless. And he died homeless because he had no mechanism, no vehicle on how to take his talent and actually manifest productivity and things that would serve as concrete examples of what his true genius really was. Without a structure, you can't get there. Not possible.
So you are using a lot the word manifesting, which I absolutely love, by the way. Throughout my life, I have been using this like principle. It's just for those that are watching. Like, would you go into maybe a little detail of what that word entails? Because I don't want people to to feel like, is this unachievable thing? It's like manifesting. It's almost like you're wishing it. And I want them to discern the difference between, what it actually means for you, at least.
Yeah, well, manifestation means we have a physical example that's objective, that nobody can argue about, that's a testimony of our ability to create something of significance. Like, for example, I had aspirations of becoming an Olympian. I could talk about that forever, but, I committed to it. It took me 10 years to be able to get from where I was to that level of play. But unless it's manifest, it doesn't really count. Intention is one thing, but doing the action steps to manifest and create something that's tangible that you can look at, that you can refer back to, that people have actually experienced, that's a whole other thing.
Oh my God, I love that so much. So you wanted to be an Olympian.
I
And
did.
so what were those steps? Were you just like one day, you know what, like this is what I want to do. I feel called to it. Like what
I
was
did.
that experience like for you?
Well, yeah, I was called to it for sure. Which is, I think, an important point to make here, that I didn't have self-ambition to showcase myself, but I showed up. I wanted to honor something that could be possible, and I was willing to show up and do whatever it took to get there. But I realized that no one wins alone. I couldn't do this by myself. And so fortunately, I had a couple of angels that came into my life that made it possible. I had my cycling coach, 3-time Olympian, 5-time national champion, and he taught me how to win. He said, Jeff, you can win it all you want, and you can have a lot of talent, but if you don't know the skill of winning, because winning is a skill, it's a learned and applied skill, then you're not going to manifest what your potential really is. So he taught me how to win. It's a skill, learned skill. And then I had another angel came into my life when I was a bit older, when I was 18, and he filled me up on the artistic side of creative expression, how we can take and develop an idea to then be able to manifest and create that. And with those two angels giving me those complementary skills, I was able to not only make an Olympic team, but I was also able to develop my artistic skill, where I show my art in the best galleries in New York City. You know, I've written a couple of books. I've done all sorts of other things that people look at and kind of say, wow, you've actually done a lot. And I feel the reason why I've done that is because I found great people that cared enough about me to help me develop the skill to do what has to go right, to be able to manifest those things that were within the skill sets that I was gifted with.
Would you say that you were a little bit lucky to have met these angels, or do you think all of us have those possibilities to find these like angels, as you call them, or mentors that can guide us? How do you think that happens?
Well, I think number one is that I realize that I maybe have a raw talent, but I need help in crafting that talent into a usable skill. And so I sought those people out, and the people that I sought out were willing to help me because they realized I wasn't doing this just to get for me what I wanted to get for myself, but I was doing this to honor a potential within me. And they were very willing to share with me what they knew would help me shortcut my process to get to those points where I could actually manifest what was possible. So that's the way that I did it. I had a lot of natural energy. I never needed to be motivated by anybody. I've got the self-starting gene, and I showed up with incredible reverence and appreciation to those people that have helped me. And I've always honored them as being the reason why I was able to do some of the things that I did.
I love that. Yes. I think it's very important to recognize when these people come into our lives, because I see, just looking in my life and my past, I've always felt like, I had a dream of achieving something. And then, people came into my life that were willing to help. And sometimes, if you're not clear about what you really want, sometimes those people come into your life, but you don't know that they're there for you. So I think it's so great that you were able to recognize and not dismiss that and say, you know what, like, I have to like really trust this person and really listen to this person. I think a lot of us ignore those signs. We ask for something and then we get it, but then we ignore it. We're like, no, this is not it. Like, how do you know when is the right decision, the right person?
That's a really good question. Well, I think first and foremost, there's an academic compatibility. If you can see what they've done and does it kind of match and reflect what our aspirations are, number one. But then the second part of that I think is really important is that, do we have a personal resonance or connection with them as a human? Is there a compatibility where I feel like this person understands who I am? Do I believe that this person will share with me what I need to know if I'm going to entrust them to move me forward? There has to be kind of an implicit trust that's beyond just the pro and con list that you create for yourself. And unless we have that connection, and the connection isn't like, okay, well, this person's going to do for me what I can't do for myself. No, that's not the question. The question is this person going to help me develop so that I have the skills myself to have the initiative to do it? Has to go right to get me from where I am to where we want to go. If you have those two things, that is probably the right decision.
Mm. So at 10 years old, you wanted to be an Olympian. Why?
Yes.
Why?
I was chosen. I was just fascinated by it, which I think is an important clue. That's all I could think about. I studied it. I read it. I watched it on television. I was called to it. And I'm okay with that. I feel that all of us are called to something. And the important thing is that we give ourselves permission to recognize that. And we don't kind of decide in advance, oh, nobody's done that from your family, or you're dreaming too big, or don't do that because all the other people are better than you. I mean, there's all these stories that we tell ourselves and talk ourselves out of things. I think we need to be really clear is that if we have a gravity, let's give ourselves permission to actually consider it as an option. And then let's start to pursue it in a very measured way so we don't go too fast, too quick. And as we start to engage it, we start to feel more confident in it. And as our skills start to grow, we believe in it more and more. And then all of a sudden, our belief that we can do it turns into knowing that we can do it. And all of a sudden, we manifest something. And once we've done that for the first time, then we've had a perfect example of exactly how that process works. And that will be an essential part of how we move forward, creating our legacy. But I also want to say something else here that's really important is that, every time we succeed, we're saying thank you to those people that helped us, our friends,
exactly.
our family, our benefactors, our coaches, our mentors. And I truly believe that we're on this planet to manifest and showcase our talents, to honor those talents. And why that's important to me is that it not only says thank you to the people that have helped us, but it also shows other people what's possible. I think a lot of us think, well, I can't do that because I don't have this or that. Well, that's not really true. All of us started kind of at the same place, thinking the same thing. But when we realize that there are people out there that can help us, and we start to build progressively over time, then we start to, again, develop the confidence and belief in ourselves that we can, by pursuing goals that are of appropriate size to begin with. So we learn the process of goal achievement, which is different than goal setting. And when we do that, then our belief that we can go to bigger, more lofty goals in the future is there.
Yeah, so I think a lot of us, and I had this in the past. So because you were saying, which I really love, you were saying, once you want something and then you achieve it, you almost have that data to back it up.
Yes.
But even in my personal life, I had that, and it was like an awakening. I was like, at first I was like, maybe it's a coincidence. You have that like, wait, did this just happen for me, or was it a coincidence? And then the second time it happens, you really want something and then it happens, you're like, is it coincidence again? Or is this really meant to be? So I can see how progressively, if you have these experiences where every time you are, you have a goal and you achieve that. But then what I realized is that sometimes, if I put out a goal and it doesn't come true, I'm like, wait, is this missing everything else? Is this a lesson that I'm supposed to learn? And I can see how people can get discouraged, and they will go back to saying, you know what, maybe it was all a coincidence and it doesn't really work the way I think it works. Like, I think it's so easy to fall off that train. It's so easy. Like, it takes so long to build that confidence, but then it's so easy to lose it when we don't get something that we want right away. So my question to you is, how do we continue believing that we can achieve everything that we want or that we're meant to? But at the same time, I guess, how do I ask this? I just really want people to understand that, just because you fall off that path, that you can always get back.
Well, yeah, there's a couple things to say about this. Is that, like, if you're not failing periodically, then you're playing life way too much in the safe zone. If you're accomplishing everything that you want to accomplish, then you're probably setting your aspirations too low, because unless we have failures, we don't really know what we're really capable of. And the failures that we have are an indicator of what we need to learn to be able to achieve them. So it's actually kind of like our friend. And what I would say in that is that that's why it's important to have mentors and people that you can have counsel with that can help you define where you are and what's coming and what may be in the way and why. Because look, a lot of times things are supposed to be hard. And we think, well, wait a minute, if I was only better, this wouldn't be hard. That's not true. Any aspirational goal always has a place in it where it's going to get difficult. And that's where you're learning a set of skills that you didn't have, that you thought that you may have, but now you discovered you don't, that you need to get. That's okay. Because our plans are only plans. And once our plans meet reality, then that's where we're going to actually see the reality of what that is. And we may need to make some adjustments to create the skills. So again, that to me is why it's important to have a mentor group or to have friends and have mentors and coaches that will be there to help you understand the reality of where you are, so you don't talk yourself into things that aren't real. For example, like let's say you're like when I was aspiring to be an Olympian, I mean, that's a tough thing. And there were moments of doubt that I had for sure. But my coach would tell me, well, no, you're supposed to feel that doubt like right now, because as you're developing the skill that you need to acquire to get there, there will be moments when you're reaching to develop the skill that you will feel like that. So please don't misinterpret that, meaning that you can't do it. It's just telling you that you're at a place where you need to learn something. That's all it is. So again, let's make sure that we're really clear that failure or stalls aren't an indicator that we can't do it. It means that we need to learn something. And if we learn that something, then that kind of breaks down that block and allows us to move forward again.
That's very interesting, because usually when we have these failures or these blocks, we think, you know what, maybe this is not the right path. Maybe I'm not on the right path. Like I see a lot of people giving up at that moment. And what you're saying is, from what I'm understanding, is that actually those are probably the pivotal moments in your life that create your success. Because I think everybody wants, you know, that smooth life without any struggles, and they want to get on top and say, you know what, wow, like I really achieved it. But I think I love the way you explain it, because it's so perfect. It's like the failures are the ones that are going to take us to the next level, not what we accomplished so far. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 100%. It's like, if you want to play at your best, you can't get there instantaneously. You know, it's a process of evolution. And we only know what to do when we hit a roadblock that informs us of the skill that we need to learn. It's never considered a misstep at all. I mean, it is in the human mythology, because the little voice inside of us that wants to talk us out of everything good will tell us, see, I told you so, you shouldn't have started this because now you're stalling. And if you were perfect like you should be, then this wouldn't have happened. That's garbage. That's absolute unadulterated garbage. That's a lie that we tell ourselves. That's human nature trying to talk us out of it. It's not it. That's the reason why it's important to be part of a community that understands the process, or have an alignment with a coach or an advisor that's a little bit ahead of us that can help us interpret our experience, because human nature really doesn't trust itself. Human nature has more confidence in our ability to fail than our ability to succeed. So we do need some guidance system through the mythology of what the stories that we're telling ourselves are, because many of them are not true. You can have what you want, but you can't have it when you want it. It takes time to be able to get there. Oh, okay, well, great. Now I see that. Well, now maybe this is possible. So you don't go for too big of goals too quickly. You know, maybe a moonshot isn't the place to start. Maybe it's just, how do I bake a cake? And if I know the methodology to bake a cake, well, then I can scale that over time, because I've mastered the process of goal achievement. So I really feel like getting around sound counsel that frames up for us what the reality really is, then gives us a real chance at, over time, being able to manifest that which we're capable of. I see this all the time: too much too fast, big ambitions too quick. Somehow we think that if we see it, then somehow it backfills and we should magically get there. It isn't like that. You know, unless we have a structure, first you prepare, then you perform, then we're putting ourselves at a disadvantage unnecessarily. And it breaks my heart to know that there are people talking themselves out of really good stuff just because they want too much too fast. You got to learn the skills first, then you can go to more loftier levels of aspiration.
But how do we make our belief in ourselves or our minds stronger to go over those hurdles?
For sure. Well, that has to do with the distance and the size of the steps that we're encountering. Because if the steps to get from A to B, we got all these little steps in between, if they're the right distance and the right intensity, then every time we meet one of those little steps, then we're developing confidence because we have a body of evidence that we're creating that we can actually do it. If we're not getting there quick enough, then we're trying too big of steps, too much, too quick, naturally will predictably create a stall, which is absolutely unnecessary, but yet we do that for ourselves. Look, here's the deal, is that like most people can do anything if they have the right path to get there. Anxiety means I don't have the right path. I'm not confident that I can do this. If you have the right path with the right steps, you can really look at it and your brain can say, well, you know, I actually can do this. It's going to take longer than I thought. But if that's what it takes, now I'm living in reality, then it becomes possible. So that's the way that I kind of look at this. Too big, too quick. That's a recipe for talking ourselves out of our belief in self that we can actually do it. Let's learn the skill first of doing things small so we get it, and then we can start to ratchet up. As we build evidence that we can do it, then we can apply it to more lofty goals in the process.
Why do you think it is that people give up so quickly on their goals? Like they will have like a super big goal, and then if it's not achieved fast enough, they're just so fast to dismiss it. Do you think it's because they don't really want it, or is it maybe somebody else's goal? Like why is it that so many people just quit?
Because I think they're afraid of failure and everybody's going to laugh at them.
But don't you fail already by quitting? Like how does that make it better?
Well, no, in their mind, they don't think that's true. They just think that I'll avoid it and everything goes away. And then I won't expose myself to the embarrassment of not achieving a goal. But that's mythology, because it doesn't work like that. You know, I mean, that's what we think it is, but it's not really what it is at all. We become more afraid over time. We get less confident over time. The more distance we put between us and accepting the responsibility. But to me, it all comes back to the plan. If you have, or the wrong goal, you may have the wrong goal. You got to make sure you have the right goal. There's big, hairy, audacious goals. There's smart goals, but like in my world, you want to make sure you have the right goal. How do you do that? Well, there's a right goal criteria that I've created that I have all the people that I work with run through this to make sure that we have the right goal, not just any goal. And then we make sure that we have the right steps between where we are and where we want to go. That's all personalized for us. And when we do it and we start to gain momentum because we have evidence of progress, then we start to believe in the process itself. But I think people are expecting way too much, way too fast, because that's what everybody's telling them to do. Dream as big as possible and somehow everything backfills. I don't think it always works like that. I think we need to learn the skill of goal achievement first. And then as we do that, our confidence increases, and eventually we get up to the pace that we'd like to get to where we want to go. That's what I see as a kind of universal antidote to this.
Yeah, and you mentioned, this goal, these goals. Can you just give us like an example or two of what you would ask like those who you coach to put them in the right path of their goals? Because maybe they are not going in the right direction. Yeah, how do you pull them back? Like, what are some things that you help them with?
Well, the first one is to follow the champion's golden rule. The champion's golden rule is you do the homework and the test is easy. Meaning first you prepare well, and then once you're prepared to start pursuing the goal, then you start pursuing the goal. A lot of people think, well, you just get started, then you make it up. Well, that's a recipe for disaster. I think you have to get prepared first. So what does preparation mean? It means, number one, making sure you choose the right goal. Not too big, not too small. The next thing you need to do in preparation before you even start pursuing the goal is to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Because if we understand why we're doing this, then it gives us a different level of drive. I think it's also important while we're preparing to ask ourselves, well, what's the impact of this goal when it's achieved? On myself, my legacy, on the people around me, and on the world I live in. Then we got to ask about mindset. Do I actually have the mindset to do this? Can I actually address some of the challenges that I'm going to face? Do I have the courage to do what has to go right despite my fear-based survival impulses to move this thing forward? Can I put myself out there and risk maybe some embarrassment getting to where I want to go? Do I actually have the mind to do that? And then resources. Before you even start, make sure you've got the time and the energy, you got the skills and the knowledge, make sure you've got a team, materials and supplies. You just need enough of that stuff that you've actually taken inventory of, that you can check off, that says, now I'm ready to start pursuing this goal. And so Most people don't prepare enough. I'm told just to start and make it up. That's not true, because that's the fastest way to put us into an unnecessary stall where we start now to believe that we can't do it, where we really never gave yourself a chance because we didn't prepare well enough to start. And you don't need to be perfect. That's what I see as the biggest block and the most important way to start it.
Yeah. And you said, people maybe sometimes put too high of goals.
I do.
I don't want people to think they cannot make big goals, but I think I'm understanding what you're saying is, even if you have a big goal, maybe break it down into tinier goals. So instead of saying, I want to buy a Lamborghini in 2 months, because that's, it's unachievable maybe for some people. And then, if they don't achieve that, then they automatically discredit everything. So you're saying is, take that big goal of having that Lamborghini, right? But break it into smaller achievable goals that if you piece them together, they will essentially get there, right? So it's not just dismissing the big goal, it's just taking it and breaking it down, right?
Well, it's a learned skill, for whatever that is. So when I had aspirations of becoming an Olympian at 7 years old, I mean, that's like absurd. That's like absurd, but yet it wasn't absurd, because kind of the first goal was to win a local bicycle race that nobody even heard of. Okay, well, I proved it to myself that I'm now moving towards it, right? And so then I went from a local competition to a district competition to a countywide competition to then a statewide competition, then to a national competition, then into an international competition. It took, me 10 years, but that was a goal that I couldn't push and get there faster, and wishful thinking couldn't take me there. I had to, again, as you said, break it down into smaller parts. I mean, it really does come down to the path, because if we have the right path with the right bite-sized goals within the goals, then it becomes more achievable. To just go from A to Z overnight, driving a Pinto to a Lamborghini,
Right.
that's a bit too much of a reach too soon. And, to me, that's asking for trouble, because that's not realistic. The goal over time through the incremental goals within a goal is absolutely correct, for sure.
And but do you think it was maybe easier for you because you started so young, at 7, like your mind wasn't necessarily corrupted by, not knowing that you can achieve it? Because I feel like, but I don't know, this is probably not true, but I feel like maybe a lot of people feel like, okay, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 50. It's kind of too late for me to start anything.
That's true. That's mythology. It's actually some of the best work comes later in life, because you're more mature. You can stay with things longer. You can make better decisions. It's never too late to do anything. Again, that's human mythology. That's our human nature trying to talk us out of it. We should predict that that's going to happen. I would tell my clients, it's like, look, this is the way you're going to be thinking about this later when it gets difficult. You're going to think that you can't do it. So just remember that when we get there, we've already talked about this. It only means that now you have to learn some lessons. Which is exactly what we want. So again, it's never too late to create a better life. And let me say this also, is that you don't need to reach the goal to start feeling better about yourself. The fact that you've taken the first step moving forward, you're automatically going to feel better. Or you put something down on the calendar that's evidence that you're moving towards bigger and better, which you're capable of, that you really want, you're automatically going to feel better just by doing that. So again, it's not so much when you get the goal, but it's how your brain is thinking about this and what your optimism is towards the goal that we need to cultivate early in the process. And I don't care how old you are, whether you're 80 years old or whatever, we can always feel better. We can always get up with more passion and with more purpose. And that's by having the right goal and the right path in front of us that we really believe in.
Yeah, I just say, like, it's sometimes, you said every time you achieve something, you get really happy, you get excited, and you're like, I can really do this. But I feel like, sometimes like all these wins are super good, but then when you fail one time, it's almost like the plunge is deeper than going up. Like going up is like incremental, like very little, but when you fail it, something is like so deep that you're like, oh my God, I have so much again to go up. So how do you keep pushing through?
Yeah, well, first off, that's a presumed fear of backsliding. That's not real. I mean, I don't know anybody. Look at Tiger Woods, right? Okay, so he got a black eye from some of the things that he did, but he fought his way back, right? I mean, look, we all have falls in life. I mean, the reality of this is that if you don't fail periodically, it means that you're not reaching enough. I mean, seriously, everybody knows that. I mean, that is living a life of manifestation. They know that we're not reckless, we're pursuing responsible goals, and we're never going to meet them all because we don't know the future. But that's not going to let that get in the way of executing a good plan. And on the occasion that we do not achieve our goals, that's not a sign that we can't do it. We don't change much from day to day. Our belief in self changes a lot from day to day. We got to remember who we are in those down moments and make the adjustments necessary to stay in the game. But again, if you're not periodically failing, the reality is that you're living life way too much in the safe zone, and you're capable of a lot more than you believe yourself to be.
So how would you say, what's a good practice for us to do that? Because again, it's so easy to fall in. I love what you're saying, because I feel like I do that a lot. But then, when those failures happen, it's like they're so painful and they're so yucky, even though I know that they're for the growth.
Yeah, well, here's the way I do it with my clients. We actually schedule failure on the calendar. I give you a perfect example. I was working with an athlete. I'm all in the business world right now, in the entrepreneurial space. I don't really work with athletes, but at that time, I was working with one of the most talented athletes in the sport that he was in. I mean, seriously, and this is really big play. And I knew that his block was something was holding him. Something was holding him back. It was the fear of failure. So what I did when we were doing one of our training sessions together, I put a weight on the barbell that I was going to ask him to lift. It was impossible. I knew it was impossible. When I asked him to lift it, he looked at me like, "Are you crazy?" And I said, "No, go ahead. This is the next task here." So he went over there and he tried to lift it and he couldn't budge it. And then he came back at me, kind of looked at me like this, like I failed. I said, "What did you learn by doing that?" Well, I failed and I didn't die. I said, "That's exactly what I wanted you to experience, that there will be moments of failure. You're not going to disintegrate and vaporize because of that. It's an indication of where you are." And with that, he went on to win multiple championships and retire as a zillionaire, and I think we all can take something from that, is that when we purposely schedule something on our calendar that's small, but it's a high risk and there's no consequence to not doing it. That would be like me. Okay, I'm going to make this type of sandwich. I've never done it before, but let me do it. I got all the ingredients. Let me try it. Like I did the other day, it's the worst thing I ever saw in my life. It was terrible, but I ate it anyhow. I did that to test myself against something that seemed really silly, but I put myself in harm's way. I failed at it. It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But you know what? I didn't die. And so I realized, okay, so I learned something that, failure is part of it. I learned a lot from it. I'll make it better the next time. It's not really an indication of me because I know who I really am. And unless we are continually default back to knowing who we are, where we're not letting our goals define us, when we have those failures, the reason why I did it with this guy is that I wanted him in a controlled environment to learn that you can fail and it's not a big deal. You just come back the next time stronger because of what you learned from it. But if we don't schedule it, then we fear it. And then when it happens, we lock up mentally and then we can't perform and then we self-prophesize it. So this is a skill that we could practice on our own.
Yeah, I think a lot of us look at, like celebrities and personalities and somebody like yourself, like Olympians, like they already had it, like they never failed. So I think we put too of a high standard for our goals. And, we think that, those people must have something different, something more special than us. And when you think like that, of course, it's unachievable because, how can I compare myself with Tiger Woods, right?
Yeah.
But, Tiger Woods, the way he did it was one step at a time, right?
Right.
And you've worked with him, right?
Yes.
What would you say his biggest like skill is? I mean, I'm sure he's good at golf, but to be the best at golf, you must have something that's different from all the other people. So what do you think that is?
It's persistence and not believing the myth and the lie that you can't do it. I mean, that's the big mythology. There's something in human nature, just the way that we're hardwired as humans. We really believe in our ability to fail and our incompetence more than we believe in our ability to manifest. And so as we learn the skill of achievement. It's a learned skill that's applied, where the mythology of what we believe it to be and what our human nature tells us about it is demystified. And as we do that, then we start to say, oh, so this is really how it's done. It's not how everybody tells me it's done. The signs of failure aren't really what we presume them to be. The path forward isn't exactly what they say it is. So again, it's really important that we spend time around people and that we remain a student of the discipline of achievement. So we start to demystify what the process really is. And when we do that, then we start to gain confidence. And then that's how we go from believing we can do it to knowing that we can do it, because we've created a body of evidence that tells us that we really can.
Why do you think our default is always on the negative side? Why is it easier for us to fall into that and not like fall into
Simple.
greatness? Why fall into
No, you
that?
can't. You can't. That's because we as humans are conflicted. We have a dual human nature. We have two mentalities that are fighting each other 24 hours a day. We have our fear-based survival impulses. We have default beliefs that are based upon survival. And survival is the body and mind's preeminent, most important value, that it will preserve at all costs. Like, for example, if you are in an intersection and a car runs a red light, somehow you know how to turn away from that, not to hit the other car head on. But yet that was a survival response that we had that protected us at a moment of imminent danger. So that's our first and primary skill, is to survive. You can't.
So we will forever have that. So
Yeah,
do you think
100%.
so we have to
You're
keep
trapped.
fighting that? Are we
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
Until it's no longer that hard. I mean, it's still going to be prevalent in our life, and it's just something we will have
100%.
to deal with every single day.
Yeah, well, you have to learn the skill of that. I've created a whole program based around that. It's called, human mindset versus the champion's mind. They're two different things. You can't shut your survival instinct off. It's not there. It's hardwired into your biology. That's always going to be there.
And you wouldn't want to anyway, right?
Well, I think some people would. They would love to not have any fear at any time. They would
I would love to, but
Yeah, of
it's
course.
there for a purpose and for a reason, probably greater than what we know of.
That's exactly right. But it is for physical survival, but it also keeps us trapped mentally from becoming the best that we can, because there's always a story that we tell ourselves that's attached to the physical response. Like, oh, I can't do that. It's too scary. If I do that, then somehow I'm never going to make it. Well, that's not true. You don't know that. But that's how your fear-based mentality that's hardwired into us thinks. For example, human nature always asks, what do I stand to lose here, given an opportunity? Well, our champion's mind doesn't think like that. The champion's mind is, what do I stand to gain here? But yet you're in this battle 24 hours a day for control over your decision-making that is the product of our human nature, survival instinct, our impulses that are faster than we can think, versus our champion's mind that isn't survival, but it's about creating excellence. There's that tug of war that we all experience 24 hours a day. That's the ultimate game. It's not positive thinking. It's not gratitude journals. It's not affirmations. It's about an understanding of how the human mind versus our survival instincts are hardwired into us, and making a conscious decision every day on how it is that we're going to show up, and what are we going to do when the stuff of life shows up. How do we recognize the mythology of what we're telling ourselves to talk ourselves out of our own greatness? You can't escape that. It's a skill that you have to learn, that needs to be applied to hold that ascendancy position, to be able to create a life of excellence. That doesn't come naturally. Our natural life is complaining, whining, talking ourselves out of everything, disbelief. That's our natural human state. I don't want to be human. I want to be superhuman. Superhuman means that I need to learn the skill of goal achievement. I need to show up and recognize those things that are talking me out of it as not being real to me. And what is it that I have to do to push that into the background? Because you can't shut it off. It's always there. It's a process that has to be acquired and maintained through its vigilant application. It never self-perpetuates. That's why people always backslide to a fundamental base them that isn't the best part of them, and they know that they're capable of much more. To play at the top requires a constant vigilance of what needs to get done. If I could just say this, if I could, also, is that if anybody would kind of like to look at the model that I've created, there's a video that you can go to just by going to www.beforeyouwin.com, BEFOREYOUWIN.com. And there'll be a video there that you can watch about the process that I put together about first you prepare and then you perform. I think that will give you great insight into that, and also into the mindset component. You can't mind over matter anything. You have to apply certain things that push our survival instinct into the background. That's what the U2s do really well. That's what Tiger does really well. That's what Richard Branson does really well. You know, some of the people that I've worked with, that's what they do really well. They always come from the champion space by applying what has to go right that suppresses that survival instinct into the background. If you learn that skill, boom, it's as good as gold.
So you're saying that these people are not just born geniuses, and they're not born unique. They just put in the work. And I love to really emphasize that, because it's, you know, a lot of people think, you know, oh, you know, I wasn't born privileged. I was born like, you know, I was born in a communist place. Like I was born here, you know, my parents were having fights. Like it's always something. And we all have this. I don't know one person that has like the perfect path.
Correct. Never. You know, never. If you have a perfect path, you're not going to appreciate it. You're always going to want more. You know, it's almost like if you fought the battle to get to the top of the mountain, then you know you deserve to have a good night's sleep because you earned it. You know, that's where confidence comes from. Nobody gets it. You know, look, we adopted our daughter from Colombia at the age of 10. Most horrific early childhood that you can imagine. I mean, physical abuse, mental abuse, you name it. That was her life for 10 years. And I told her when we adopted her, I said, just don't be average. You know, and she didn't speak English. We didn't speak Spanish. So it was all in sign language to begin with. But the point is that every one of us gets a raw deal. Every one of us is a prisoner of our own human nature. Our human nature doesn't want us to succeed. You know, we talk ourselves out of stuff. Why are humans all like that? Because that's part of the human dilemma. That's part of the human experience. But there's only one way out. And that's to learn the skill of goal achievement, have the right pacing, know what a true champion's mind really is, and know how to fight the battle honorably day in and day out. Because the day that we stop defending it by applying the actions is the day that we start to backslide back into that place where we're not performing at our best and we know it. You got to fight for this day in and day out. There are no exceptions. The single thing that all the prolific achievers do is that they stay in the game long enough to develop the skill to manifest that which you're capable of. And that doesn't happen overnight. For me, to become an Olympian, it was 10 years. That's what it was. You know, to bake a cake, it may be, you know, 2 days, 2 hours, who knows? But the point is that if you stay in the game, you have good counsel, you know where you are, you've got a great plan, you have somebody to you can consult with to confirm your progress or what you're experiencing, then it's only a matter of time. At a certain point, you'll get up one day and you'll believe that you can do it.
Did you, this is probably a funny question, but did you ever wanted to give up in those 10 years? And how many times?
Did I ever what?
Did you ever wanted to give up when it got so hard? I mean, it took you said 10 years to get to.
Let me put it this way. There were moments of serious doubt that my human nature put into me, because we're creatures of doubt. We doubt ourselves. But what I had is that I had a really good coach that explained to me, this is all part of what you need to experience, that you need to overcome the right way right now. If you don't do this now, then you're never going to give yourself a chance to be the person that you could be. I was really fortunate because I had a really good coach. That's why I say, make sure that you're tethered to either a group, you have a coach, you have somebody that you can defer to help you interpret your experience, so that you don't believe the mythology of what our human nature tells us about our incompetence and our inability.
What about for those that are, you know, they're introverts and they say, you know,
well, that's
I'm
me.
I'm not really social. Like I can't find people that I can connect with. And sure. I see this as a real struggle. And especially now since COVID, I almost feel like this has really deepened even more in some people. They, you know, I talk to people all the time as part of my job, and you know, a lot of people say, you know what, I kind of don't, like, I'm afraid to leave the house. I'm afraid to be in public. How do you go past that.
Yeah, I get that. Well, that's where if you have believable sources that resonate with you about information and what things really mean, you stay tethered to that for sure. That's one way of doing it. There are also courses that you could take online. Look, I'm an introvert, believe it or not. I'm really a super introvert. I love my time by myself. I'm self-entertaining. Let's put it that way. And so again, everyone will be accepted into any group, regardless, extrovert, introvert. No one wins alone. I explained that earlier in our conversation. We can't do this alone. We need references that inform us of reality, that help us understand where we are and what that means so that we can interpret our experience correctly. Because left to our own devices, we may not do that. I see people talk themselves out of good things all the time when they're left alone with their own conversations inside their head. That's not a place that you want to go to too often. We need some reference point that helps us correctly interpret what our experience is and what the actions that we will take to be able to move forward. So study courses online. There's lots of free information out there that you can look at as well. There are people, individuals, there are groups that you can join. And even if you're an introvert, you can stand, in the back of the line to listen. And as you start to become more confident, then you can contribute further. Don't try to do this alone. Again, no one wins alone. It's not possible. There's lots of reasons to be concerned that aren't real in this world here that make us really afraid and really scared. We won't go into that at this time. That's not what this conversation is about. But be around people that you trust, that you have a resonance with, that you believe will give you proper information, good counsel, and good fellowship to be part of the collective that you're creating for yourself, knowing that no one wins alone. That would be one of the most important suggestions I could give anybody.
So when you say nobody wins alone,
Correct.
It's quite deep because it might make people think that they have to find somebody. And I see your point. I see your point that it's easier to grow. But in my case, I feel like I've done a lot by myself, and I'm at a point now that I've done almost everything by myself that I'm afraid to open myself up to that other, I'm almost afraid of letting people in. So when you say that, it's very interesting to me.
Classic. Well, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And you cannot run your blind spots. I do know that. Eventually your blind spots will hold you back. The question is that when is that going to happen and how bad is it going to be? It may take you 10 years to get someplace that you could get to in 2 years if you had sound counsel. And quite honestly, it takes about 50 years to get through a first pass of life when you've seen most of it. And so between now and then, we're making estimations against what we perceive to be true in our decision-making, and it may not be true at all, but you don't know that until you're faced with a preventable problem that you didn't avoid, that you could have avoided. So again, I see this happen all the time, and that's the reason why the people that play a really big game, they're no different from us. They've taken the time to get there. They've invested in themselves, but they also have sound counsel that helps them frame up the reality of what the presumed future may be to avoid preventable problems and seize best opportunities. That's what I mean by that. If you want to take 20 years to experiment, that's great. If you want to do it in 2, well, then find some good people to give you sound counsel. Don't put yourself at risk unnecessarily by not seeking good counsel. Make sure that what you believe to be true, it really is true. I mean, I built a whole career on this. People, what they believe to be true may not be it at all. One of the things that we see as we mature, what we thought it was earlier wasn't what it was at all, but it sure did sound good. At the time, we really believed it. Well, okay, well, then that just added, 10 years to the timeline it took you to get to where you want to go. And half of the scar tissue that you have because of the bad choices that you made that you thought were the right choices could have been avoided. So no one wins alone. It just depends on how long you want to take to get to where you want to go. And are you going to the right place? And are you going to what you could be going to? Are you creating the life that's absolutely possible? I don't think we could do that alone. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I see a lot of people, maybe being afraid of choosing the wrong mentor or angel. So are you saying do it regardless, and then you will learn what you don't want.
No, I think I'm saying you don't do anything regardless. For example, I knew a guy in a mastermind that had fear of doing something, and all his friends, it was $25,000 for the mastermind, and all his friends told him, well, the fear is the problem. The way you overcome fear is just to do what you fear. And I thought that was the stupidest thing I ever heard, because what he did, he took action on something that he should not have taken action on. And his fear was his friend trying to tell him something like, don't do this. Further investigation is required. So again, what we think it to be may not be it at all. That's why we need sound counsel, those people that are older than us, that have a little bit more bandwidth, that we have a resonance with, that we believe can help frame up the reality of what this is, so that we don't take action on what we think it is when it's not it at all. The guy lost $25,000, bad advice. He invested another $25,000 in the idea, $50,000 lost, poof, gone overnight, which is 100% predictable, because he got really bad advice from people that tried to give him good advice, but it wasn't at all. That's why, in my opinion, if you look at if you want to emulate what all the people that play at the top do, they have advisors that are kind of looking over them, and they're seeing what's happening. Not that they're incompetent, but we know you can't outrun your blind spots. Nobody can. It's again, it's a matter of when it's going to detonate, how bad it's going to be, but you can't outrun them. And that's why, again, I feel like this idea of collective, you're not deferring the responsibility to other people to do for you what you should be doing for yourself. That's not what we're saying. We're saying, let's make sure that the actions that we take are based upon what it really is, so that you have a predictable outcome that's positive to us living the best life possible.
Right. I mean, even Tony Robbins has advisors, I'm sure,
Yes,
and
yeah, of course,
all the high level people that we look upwards to. So how do we meet those people, the advisors to Tony Robbins?
Well, you have to get out there. You have to get out there and sniff around. You know, you go on the internet, you stalk people, you look at their pedigrees online, you listen to what they're saying, watch a couple videos. If you have the gravity there and the trust, then you kind of pursue it a little bit further. But again, I think that there are people out there that really want to help others, and they're waiting for those others to show up. They're not out looking for them, but if they show up and they're of good sound, they got a great heart, and they show merits, and they show potential, then there's always an opportunity to find the right person that can help you move forward. I'm just going to suggest, don't try to do it yourself. You know, you're the one who has to turn the pedals to your own life, but let's make sure that we minimize the scar tissue in the process.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that upon myself to try to be more open. Let me read some comments before we end. The real goal is knowing how to set the small goal and measure them and enjoy from near.
Yes.
And then we have Kylie. She's asking, what's the recommended course to learn goal achievement?
The very first thing, please just go to www.beforeyoowin.com, and I have a video there on my goal achievement roadmap process that will give you a lot of insight into how to look at the concept of goal achievement. Goal achievement is not goal setting. Goal setting doesn't guarantee that you're going to achieve it. We have to understand that goal achievement is its own special area that needs to be taken and learned with a high degree of proficiency.
I love that. And then Claire says, note to self, no one wins alone.
That's it, man.
I love it. Thank you, Claire. And thank you for all the listeners. So just one more time before we go, how can people reach you if they'd like to get in touch with you or maybe watch some of your videos? How do they find you? Yeah,
for sure. Beforeyoowin.com. That'll give you a link to the Instagram, where I have just tons of videos that I've created with these 5 to 8 minutes. This is how the champions do it, how they create great lives for themselves. That would be the entry point for sure. If you are interested in a more extensive conversation, then you can go to my website, www.drjeffspencer.com. You can fill out an application. That's not an obligation, but it just gives us a chance to perhaps set up a phone call to have a more in-depth conversation.
Dr. Jeff, you are phenomenal, and you have brought so much joy into my life. And the way we met actually was, I guess coincident or universe, but I am very, very grateful.
Me too. I can't thank you enough just for this amazing experience. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, all your wisdom with all our listeners.
You're welcome.
I wish you a wonderful day, and we will speak to you very soon.
I look
At
forward
least
to it.
myself.
Onward and upward. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Now, let's add our Mrs. Michelle Venton in the house. How are you? I've missed you. I am so excited to have you on and so excited about Branded by Women.
I know, I'm so excited as well. And that was a great podcast. So much useful information there. And it just always just keeps motivating us.
So
Yes.
good. So yeah, Dr. Jeff Spencer, like I talked to him before and I was like this the whole time. Like I didn't want him to stop. He really is on another level. And he says we could all be on that level. So I guess it's not it's not unachievable. So we're just waiting for Miss Athena. But just wanted to check up on you. How have you been? How's life?
Yeah, really good. Good. I've just come in. It's absolutely freezing here at the moment. So I'm just trying to warm up in time for this call. But yeah, really good, really busy. Launched the second brand late last year. So full steam ahead. Yeah, just keep going.
I love it. That's what we do. And Miss Athena, kisses. I'm on your side of the world now. I'm in Miami. I just came for a few days. So Michelle was saying that it's so cold where she's at. And here it's like perfect weather. It's so good.
Right now, babe?
Say, Michelle?
Sorry, what?
No, I said you're in Miami right now, Bella?
I am.
God,
It was very impromptu, like, like a 3 days trip for, some business and a little bit of fun. But that's it. But how have you been, Athena? Everything good? I know you were just in a business meeting, right? We had to pull you out of that.
Yeah, definitely. But you know what? You do what you got to do. And it's been amazing. Life's been great. We're doing some great things with our guys in Titan and just really looking forward to Branded by Women. I've been doing a lot of Clubhouse stuff. I know that you've been on Clubhouse a lot. And it's been really interesting because I feel like I've been connecting with people that I normally wouldn't get a chance to connect with. And these are like legendary, massive entrepreneurs, people that we all really look up to. And then maybe people from different parts of life and different countries that I wouldn't normally communicate with. And so to get the perspective of so many different people has been very unique. And I'm very excited to sort of expose them to what we're going to be doing together with Branded by Women for sure.
I love that. I love that. And I think, is the perfect timing, like for this app, at least, because you gave everybody a chance to, like you said, get to know more people where, it's not as easy as going to a conference. Now you have it at home and you made these connections. And then when everything opens, that you're like, hey, I met you on Clubhouse. Like this is going to be probably the saying of the year. I met you on Clubhouse. So let's hope that happens soon, though, where we can all meet and really enjoy our companies. So Branded by Women, ladies, is that time of the year. I'm so excited to co-host with both of you. Amazing, brilliant women. And what do you think? Should we play that promotional video and see what we have in store?
Oh, yeah.
Branded by Women is back, bigger and louder than before. Packed with 30 sessions taught by women who are leading the way in e-commerce, this event focuses on the vision, strategy, and tactics needed to get you unstuck and moving to the next level. 2020 has seen a growth in online shopping like never before. It had the highest year-on-year growth ever and shows no signs of slowing down. Whether you are just getting started, already own an e-commerce business, or are gearing up for an exit, the Branded by Women speakers will share stories, teach strategies, and give tips for achieving success. Expand your knowledge, be inspired, and let's achieve together.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So powerful.
So good.
Oh.
I wonder whose beautiful voice that was.
Oh, cringe. No. I just love seeing all those women up there, all successful in all our different fields, whether it be legal, accounting, ranking, business owners, everything. And it's, some of the speakers are new, some of the speakers are from Branded by Women #1, but the game keeps changing. We all keep advancing and learning new skills, and we have new things to teach. So it's just great to see that, the growth of all of us in the space of a year. I just think it's fantastic.
I love that. And it's like when you think you already mastered something, you're like, no, I didn't. And then you start all over again. But then just like Dr. Jeff Spencer was saying, it's those failures, those small failures that move us ahead. So I think as long as we learn to embrace that as part of our growth, it's going to make our lives much saner, for one. But yeah, I'm so excited for all these new women that we didn't hear last year. There's just so much value there. And I just love that our women, tribe is growing and it's multiplying, and it's all these amazing, amazing souls who are just so powerful, and they have so much to share. So I love to see that we have this in this new year.
I love it too. One thing I think is so special is that these women are leading with their accomplishments, with their statistics, with the things that they've actually achieved. And so it's not just a conversation of men versus women and things like that. It's more like we're all coming forward and we're strong, and we've done what we've done, despite certain obstacles and things that we might have in our way. There's a lot of single moms that are on this stage. There's people like you, Bella, who came to the US from Romania with nothing and built yourself an entire empire. And then there's Michelle, who's such a leader to so many of us. She's a mom. She's such a goddess. But I just love seeing that, the conversation to me is not about, men versus women and women power so much. It's just more we are women and we're accomplishing this, and we are standing strong, and we're here to inspire and help the rest do the same.
I love that. I always say, I've learned a lot of what I know from men. I couldn't have learned it other ways, but I love to see that there are a lot more women are standing up, and it's now I have women to look up to. I mean, look at Sarah Blakely, she always blows my mind, what that woman has achieved with, no investors, and just her passion and her belief that, I got this. So I think the more women on screen, and the more light we shine on women, the more other women can connect with. It's not that they're not going to look up to men and say, oh, you know what, I no longer listen to men. It's not all about that. It's just showing that, there's all these women who are so strong and powerful in their own way. And it just gives us more confidence in the end. Again, it's not about separation. It's about even more community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit on a good word there, confidence. For whatever reason, sometimes women are a little bit less reluctant to step into the spotlight and to talk about their successes or to talk about their vulnerabilities. And I think that by coming together on this platform, it's a safe environment, and we're growing in confidence all the time. And exactly like you say, it's not separation, but we come to this sometimes with struggles or with backgrounds or with needs that perhaps men don't sometimes, and it can be easier to relate to somebody that's coming from a place where you have, or that has the same vulnerabilities or the same strengths. And I just think it's a voice that perhaps you can resonate with a little bit easier and give you that confidence that you need to just move on to the next stage. So it's so great to see just women that we haven't heard from before, who didn't have the confidence to perhaps, do a presentation or take to the stage. And now suddenly they're watching us and others like us do it. And they're thinking, yeah, I can do this. And we'll support
That's right. That's it. That's just it. It's just that little thing. Because we all tend to put ourselves down. I saw my presentation and I was like, oh my God, I could have done so much better. But I'm sure we all think that I could have done better. But it's the fact that we do it that's going to help us next time and next time and next time. And we're probably never going to be like, you know what, that was the most perfect presentation I've ever done. I think you get close to that. You know what, okay, it's getting better and better. But you cannot get better unless you do a really shitty one. You're going to do your bad one, and then next time you're going to be just a little better, and then just a little better. But you cannot go from 0 to 100 without having all these steps, because everybody wants to get on screen and be perfect. It doesn't happen. And it's the same in business. You cannot start today with your Amazon store and expect to cash out in 3 months 100 million. It doesn't work like that. There's some things that you have to go get through to like really give you that, power and success. So
Bella, you brought such a good point. Such a good point. I think there's so much like glamorized entrepreneur stuff out there where it's sexy, and yes, you can make millions of dollars just working 5 minutes. And what that does is it sets people up for loss, because it's not true. That's not how you build. And I think that bringing people through and showing them the reality of what it really takes to scale a business, what it really takes to build things, it just makes it more realistic. And I think that we have made ourselves vulnerable and we put ourselves out there, and there's going to be days where our hair is not perfect and we're struggling with the kids and trying to like make dinner and do all the things. And I think showing that side, it makes it more realistic. And then I think talking about how the journey continues will just really make everyone be able to follow along with it, which I think is important.
I love that. Yes. Yeah. And it's like, it's very true. Like, because you're saying it makes it look realistic because it's real life. Like, we're not all like perfect and we have to move this way or this way. It's what makes us unique. And it's okay. And that's why I love that we have so many women this year. I'm proud of my women.
Here's an example. I did not feed myself this morning when I was getting my kids because I was too busy. So just now, the reason why I turned my head is because my favorite eats is here because I haven't eaten yet, and that's just my normal life, and it's already noon. So there's things like that happen in real life, and it's not always like perfect and yachts and Lamborghinis, but it's like we're building something we're proud of, and we're able to help other people and inspire other people to do the same. And I think that's amazing.
Thank you so much, ladies. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to see you all in person. Thank you for coming. For all those watching, go and get your free ticket, Branded by Women, right now, and you'll get to see all the amazing souls on stage this year. Thank you, ladies. Wish you all a good day, and